What's up, everyone, and welcome to the Women's Rugby Treehouse. You'll notice I'm neither Hugh nor Harley, but a secret third host. That's right, it's a girl boss pod this week. I'm Julia, and with me are two bosses who are girls, Sian and Hattie. What's up, Sian and Hattie?
Hey, how you doing?
How are
Doing
you?
all right. How are you? Hello, howdy. All right. I'm glad we got it in right before we head into week three. It is week three of the Women's Six Nations, and there may or may not have been a little news elsewhere in the women's rugby sphere. So we're just gonna get right down to it. First, we're going to start off with a review of last week. And last week, week two, we saw three matches, as we always would. Wales versus England, Italy versus Ireland, and Scotland versus France. So let's just dive right in if there's no opening business. We'll start with Wales versus England. The final score was 12-67, nothing surprising there. We are all long-suffering Wales fans. What do we think?
I actually was a little bit surprised with the scoreline, actually. I didn't think it was going to be that big in
No.
terms of I didn't think that they were going to score that many. And I thought we'd probably score a few more as well. As an event, I thought it was amazing, I have to say. Went to the game. It was a world away from last year. It was a world away from the Principality match we played against Italy last year. The whole event was just incredible. I honestly felt like the WIU did a lot of things really well, making it into just a really good event. I've never been to such a women's rugby event that felt so big, and like walking around town, it felt like, oh my God, it just felt really exciting. Everything about that day was great, apart from the results.
See, that's really great to hear, especially because like I hate to say it, and we're not gonna go on it long, but it is a women's rugby podcast. We should probably say something about it. I would hope that you would agree that the whatever 15 to 20 seconds that Sarah Byrne and Jazz Joyce Butchers did a TikTok. I'm hoping that it didn't take away from your entire experience and ruin the whole thing, and you thought that Wales didn't take it seriously. I don't know if that's how you read it.
No, not at all. I didn't really care.
That's
Like
crazy.
I
That's
heard
crazy.
so much.
I've talked to so many women who are women's rugby fans, and that's what I've heard across the board. I just wanted to make
I
sure that we were.
I no, I didn't even cross my mind. It genuinely didn't even cross my mind. I was amazed when I saw all the kind of the all the madness about it. Because as far as I was concerned, I was just like, well, what's this? Yeah, it was mad. I don't know how Hattie felt about that. Probably similar.
Yeah, that was what I was going to ask because I would really like to, just because I feel like if nothing else, like at least established ourselves as three fans who take rugby seriously, ball knowers, if you will. None of us had any problems with it. Nobody we know had any problems with it, but we might as well get it on the record. What do you think, Hattie?
Do you know what? I tweeted at the time, and I stand by it. It's not that deep.
It's really not. I really think that
It's just not that
it,
deep.
it I think that I saw more reaction to it and more impressions, like whatever social impressions about it than like of the thing. I think I saw it once. Um, no,
It
I'm glad
ended
to
up
hear that.
it ended up being more of the focus of the whole day, really,
Exactly.
than the actual
Which,
match itself.
And the
which
thing,
if we, oh, please.
I was going to say, like, the takes on it were just bad. Like,
That's what I was going to.
this is the thing. Like, it was just people who clearly either didn't watch the game, don't know anything about women's rugby, making these takes. It wasn't a historic loss against
And
England.
I
It
would like to just,
was
I
a
would like to
normal
clear the air.
scoreline against England.
Exactly. I would like to clear the air very briefly because this is something that we all reported to each other seeing a lot. Was I don't know where this narrative came that England is Wales's fiercest rival.
It's not.
In insofar as the Red Roses are everybody's rival, sure, but in terms of like, I think if you ask any of the players, and in fact they have, there was some social media content that when they were asked who their biggest rivals were, most of them said Scotland.
Yeah, like
We all kind of say Scotland.
Wales and Scotland are like, they say it's the grudge match. Like, they're the ones where that is the
Exactly.
game they take the most seriously. To be honest, I don't. When they keep scheduling the matches, they keep putting it first, and I honestly feel like it
Mm.
should be the last match because
Agreed.
it's such a grudge match.
That's a Le Crunch. That's the Celtic Crunch. Wow, that's
Yeah.
actually really good, and I just thought of it. I'm gonna message someone later.
Trademark it.
Could write that down. I need to figure out how to spell crunch in Welsh, but once I do, we're doing it.
Yeah,
We'll figure it out.
It's such a big match. Like, the Welsh and the English players do like playing each other, and they do say that they like playing each other because obviously they play together in the
They all
PWR,
play
they're
together.
friends, they're dating, like all of that fun stuff. They live together, whatever. So they know each other really well. But they both know that England are gonna win.
Everybody, and see, that's what made the outrage so faux outrage, because I mean, you nailed it already, Hattie. That's how you know that the people who were making the biggest mess, like what they were saying kind of gave it away, that you don't know. Because what are you talking about, that this wasn't historic? It's not the biggest scoreline they've ever had. It was completely expected. Also, if you knew anything about Welsh rugby, and I can tell you don't, but if you did, you would know that, like, yeah, of course we're going to have a rough time. The coach got there 3 days ago.
There was so much nuance that people were missing that you would know if you followed the game.
Yeah,
like how Hattie mentioned about, players dating. They all play in the PWR together.
I was going to say
kind of stuff.
I was going to say the
all
two
on
teams are
TikTok
more
anyway. It's like
the teams are more best friends than they are rivals. So that was the first one where I was just like, all right. And then also it's like very tertiary, whatever. But also they're club teammates. They've been club teammates for years. Like, shut up. What are you?
I don't know. I think like I can't, like, part of me was like a little, like, I kind of get it in a sense. Like it felt very much to the ground. That second half I was just like, can it just end now? Can it just end now?
Exactly.
I was very much. I was very.
We might
I
as
was
well
quite
steer
negative.
it back to the game itself, please.
Yeah,
tell us
I did
both
feel
how it was and what we thought.
Like I said, being in the stadium, it was an amazing event. But I gotta say, like, after that 10 minutes, I just wanted it to end. It was just kind of like, just end. And then when I actually rewatched the game on the Monday, I was like, oh my God, actually, it wasn't anywhere as bad as I felt like it was in the stadium. It was, we can take a lot more positives from that match. The fact that we had nearly 50% possession, and the fact that we had, I think, just over 50% territory. Although that's a little bit depressing given the scoreline, really, I guess. But like, we weren't anywhere near as bad as I felt that we were in the stadium, and there were actually loads of positives to take. There are.
I mean, sorry.
I was going to say, like, I have some of the stats up, like, right now, just like very, very basic stats. But if you look at the tries conceded, the first half was not that bad in terms of tries.
No, it wasn't.
Like, it was 4 tries in the first half, which, if you're not used to women's rugby, if you've never seen the Red Roses before, you think, oh my God, how can you have a bonus point? Like, in the first half for the Red Roses,
that's very common.
Yeah, but it was every other, like, everything else was in the second half, and it is literally like
which is Hallmark Wales anyway. And it's Hallmark Wales women to fall apart in the second half anyway.
And
I think England, though, I think they were determined to not. So obviously against Italy, in the second half they just fell asleep, didn't they? And they just took their foot off the gas. I think there was part of them that were deliberately going out to show that they weren't going to do that again. It felt that I almost felt like they were just, not to like humiliate us, but they really wanted to kind of.
Well, no, and remember, it was on the back of all what I think was just background noise, because they needed something to talk about. But it was a lot of the English media at the time, once we had the team sheets out, was already saying like, oh, it's the B team. Like, they're very clearly very confident. Okay.
Yeah, definitely. But like, I mean, the Red Roses are amazing. Like they
sure.
just score. They're just so clinical. And if the stats about the possession, and we knew this watching it, it's like we just don't do enough with the ball. Like, I just felt like our attack is just so static sometimes. Well, most of the time, and we just don't really look like we're ever really going to do much.
We're like the the emoji of the girl that just stands there.
But it was.
Is like.
But it really was, and I mean, that was a lot of the feedback that pundits were giving, both in real time and after, was just that in attack, and we've spoken about the Welsh attack a lot. I don't know what else to say that would be helpful. I mean, it would just be saying it's bad doesn't help, but it wasn't good. It didn't look improved where everything else looked improved.
Kate Williams's try was the exception. If you watch that try again,
Sure,
like
but
we
aren't
scored we haven't scored a try from a scrum, although admittedly the scrum was going backwards, but we haven't
right.
scored from a scrum like that in quite a while, and that was probably the only move of the game where we actually looked quite sort of, I don't know, a bit nippy, you know.
Well, and it's got to be disappointing when Hannah Jones herself, and I think part of it was lip service, but they did come out, I think in reaction to things being like, this season we're looking at more backs tries. No, we're not. No, we're not.
Yeah, I think we should have scored at least one more try, probably two. Like there were chances that we definitely had a couple of chances in the second half when we should have scored. First half, we after Jenni Scoble's try, we didn't really look like we were going to score again, did we? Really?
No.
But yeah, it was a weird game. It felt weird, very strange. But I do think, like, I thought Karis Cox played really well. Like there were some
bright
people
spots. Yeah.
Yeah, they really were. Of course, Alao just came on and looked so, like, it was ridiculous. I thought, like, she just looked so at home against the best team in the world.
Both Elo and Maisie inject a lot of, I mean, first of all, great rugby players. But for the age, and I'm not suggesting that they are immature in any way, but in terms of like game maturity, for having so little, the bang for your buck of bringing them in has, I can understand now, and we'll talk when we preview the next week, but you can see why they are rising 100%. At the rate that they are. Yeah.
And I think, just to briefly touch on their maturity as well, they are so young, but this is why the Celtic Challenge was so important for them, because they took on a leadership role within the Celtic Challenge. If they'd been playing, they both could have played in the PWR, and Maisie probably would have come off the bench for one of the teams, probably could have started for a lot of them. Maybe not for Gloucester, she's currently a Heart Pro, but for maybe one of the others, she probably would have started.
Yes.
But they wouldn't have taken on that leadership role.
Exactly.
They wouldn't have had that maturity, and they wouldn't have been test level ready. So I think that's where the Celtic Challenge, if people are going to, obviously Ireland have made some kind of comments about the Celtic Challenge, this is where it's really important, because it gave them that extra bit of maturity. So I think, actually, I'm really glad that they both had that experience.
100%.
And I mean, and we can't dive into it too much because we have to review the other ones, but really we've spoken about it before, and it's really worth repeating just off the back of that point, that at this time, the three Celtic nations don't necessarily treat the Celtic Challenge the same way. It's touted as a development league. Some are using it that way. I would argue that in the wake of this kind of performance, and we've seen it from other players, these two happen to be breakout stars, but there are others that are coming through as well. Molly Reardon did as well. I would say of the three, I think Wales is, one way or another, using it the best. Or at least closest to what it's supposed to be. Not that the intent matters, but in terms of the problems that Wales has, they are using the Celtic Challenge as much as they can, because the problem for Wales is pathway and development. And there was absolutely nowhere else to do it. Lucky we have this. I will be interested to see if it expands. Us on the chat aren't the only ones who have heard rumblings of expanding. Obviously, this pod would be in favor of that, but
definitely, yeah.
Exactly. So speaking of Celtic teams, the next game that we had was Italy and Ireland. Wish I could say that it was going to be more unpredictable, but it was kind of, what do we think, expected?
What was the end score again? Because I said that Ireland would win by 20, but they won by
but the end score was
like
Italy 12, Ireland 54.
Yeah, I thought Ireland would win fairly comfortably. I didn't think they would be that comprehensive.
Ireland really ran away with it. I feel like played their bench really well.
Yeah.
I wish I had more to say. We talked about it last week as well. I don't know what to say for Italy. I wish that we knew more. I wish we knew why this was happening, because it wasn't necessarily predictable if you were looking at WXV performance to now.
Something we didn't actually talk about last week, which I think is important to note, is that Italy have got a new coach.
Yeah.
From a very winning men's team.
Oh yeah.
I wouldn't
We'll
say.
use it, Zebra.
Yeah. If you're going to pick a new head coach, I wouldn't pick a dude who has the worst record in the URC and got fired because of that.
It's a very WRU in 2010 thing to do, isn't it?
It's a very failing up maneuver. And actually, I'm glad that we're moving on to Scotland next, because we can talk again about failing up. It's really disheartening. But it's certainly been a trend in women's rugby. We thought slightly that it was going away. I mean, certainly if you were a Wales fan, you were really excited by seeing Sean Lynn be elevated the way that he was. It's disappointing what they've done with Italy, especially on the back of not making the contracts any better, being cagey about professionalism at all.
Yeah, it definitely feels like they're not really taking the women's game seriously. That's how I mean, we don't really know what's going on, but that's how it comes across. And like last year, I thought Italy were really not looking right. But if anything, I think they look a bit worse this year. I don't know how everyone else feels, but I thought
that's where the surprise is, though, is because you would think from the disarray, and of course, being a team, Wales being a team where, like, you found out much later that there were serious problems. It wasn't just a bad coach; it was like a bad problem. Yes. We don't know that that's what's going on with Italy. I wish, and it doesn't really matter anymore in this day and age that it's in Italian. Like, I can translate it. I can get it translated. That's fine. There's no news coming out. I've looked because I really do want to know. There usually isn't just a problem with a coach or just a leadership problem. It's usually, I mean, we were confounded by this as Wales fans. It wasn't just a leadership problem. Was it just a coaching problem? Turns out it was all of it. I feel really bad that Italy is in the spot that they are in now, being 5 months out from the World Cup.
I mean, all we really know about that program as of recently is that the contracts took forever to get sorted. Like, we heard last year that they were not sorted, and then like 10 months later it was, here are the contracts. We then had Katie Daly-McLean, who has a selection of Italian players up at Sale. She was on comms for the Italy-England game, and she sounded incredibly angry about the way that the Italian players were being treated. Obviously, she couldn't go into detail. And I think when you've got a head coach of a club team talking about how they're being treated at a national level on television, being visibly upset and angry,
stepping out to say that
a lot. And then you've got a guy who was, quite frankly, the nearest dude who was available,
not even good at his job that he knew, and then now you're throwing him into a job he doesn't know. Well, he wasn't even good at men's rugby where he's from.
He was terrible. He got sacked for being the worst coach in URC. Like, why is he
which is really a feat. We don't have to go into that. We have other rap pods for that, but that's a feat to be the worst coach in the URC.
Yeah, it's an impressive mantle. Yeah.
So I mean, on the
and his team, then their first match back beat Munster after he got sacked.
They were so happy to see him go. I do just want to circle, just because I'm really glad that you brought that up. I did completely forget, just in the scheme of things. But especially for particularly Katie Daly-McLean to have said that. We don't need to go too deep into the professionalization in England. A lot of the story is already widely told, but in terms of being there for both the bad and the eventually pretty good, she retired around the time that things started really, really heating up. Went immediately into coaching. It's not like she's been distant from it, but she's seen both sides. And so when she said that, and like you said, it really is sticking your neck out to do it on national comms. I think just because of the kind of person that she is and what she has seen, is that if that's what she said, what she's seen is probably worse. And again, it is really important to note not only that, like, she has the pocket of players, but the players that she has at Sale. She has Beatrice Rigoni. She has Sofia Stefan, who I think was the captain, Duca is the captain now, but or Giordano rather. But
there's something going on.
Italy, if you're listening, please do speak. I mean, I also gotta wonder what kind of, we don't know, but I do wonder how FIR speaks to them. That we haven't heard anything. There haven't been any leaks. There hasn't been a Fee Thomas special. We don't know.
But is that because the media aren't taking enough interest? We're interested because
yes,
we're really
into women's rugby.
But
well, we've spoken a lot about how it's hard to get anybody to give a shit.
Exactly. Like it's quite hard to get the media to pay much attention outside of the Red Roses, really, isn't it?
But
it's true. They don't even care that much about France.
Just to talk about
exactly,
media-wise within Italy, this match on the weekend was the first time ever that the Italian women's team was broadcast on television.
Nationally.
Which is a massive deal. That's like a massive deal.
It's a massive deal. It's a massive deal, but it should. I was going to say it should be a huge stain. It should be a huge stain on FIR to have let it get that bad.
And I think what was kind of not offensive, but I think it was kind of the way that it was said. And I don't want to say that it was. I want to say it was bad, but it could have been a translation issue. Was that they basically said that like, oh well, if the women's team start making money, then we'll give them more opportunities.
Where we heard that before, other than everywhere.
Yeah, I don't think that was a translation issue.
No, the same argument. The same argument applies that we would make if they said it about anybody else.
We hear it all the time. We hear it all the time, don't we? Here.
Yeah, and how can they make money?
I was just going to say they sure can't.
Exactly. If you're not investing, you have to invest in it in the first place.
Well, and of all nations in Europe, and we don't need to get too granular, but of all nations in Europe, Italy is one of the bigger nations. It's probably not easy to travel from one region to the other to go see them live, and that's the only option you've given them so far for making money. Not to mention also pay them, so they have to leave all the time, but. I guess.
Yeah,
it's
you
just
mentioned
disappointing that it's
Rigoni.
2025.
You mentioned Rigoni just now, but she just seems like a shadow of the player she was.
She seems
down. She
exactly
used to be happy.
She's like a really happy kind of goofy kind of. She's one of my favorite players, but she obviously
she is the Riz master of women's rugby for sure.
She totally is, but she'd normally be the kind of player. If I'm picking a fantasy team, she's in every time.
Of course,
I'm kind of like, oh, I don't really want to pick her now, and I felt bad about it. But it's like she's just not performing.
I feel like that speaks directly to the coaching.
I agree. There's a lot going on there. We saw it with Wales, didn't we? Where players not
and now that and the thing is we're shell shocked from it because we know now how bad things can be that you don't even think about. And you guys know more than I do about the men's game in general. So you may know more about the men's game in Italy. I don't know, but I'm sure that there have been disputes before, or maybe I'm just basing this off of Wales disputes of just everything is a dispute. But I would assume that it's probably been the same. And if they're so slow to even drag their feet, I don't know when they're planning to address it. You would think that now would be the time. But who knows? Maybe they'll come out in a few months and it'll turn out that their plan is what we fear Wales is, which is just we're focusing on 2029. We're not thinking right now.
Yeah, I think the thing that worries me about Italy is that they were quite happy for a long time in the men's game to just be sick.
Yeah.
Yeah. And they got dinged a lot for that. And you would think that it had resonated with the union.
And I think out of the 6 unions within the 6 nations, they are the one with the smallest budget, I think. I don't know. Hugh will be able to say.
I would be very surprised if it wasn't.
They've probably got the smallest paper. It's the smallest rugby playing nation of the 6.
Yes.
They have a very, very small pool. It's predominantly in the north. But the 2 professional teams are kind of spread out in Italy. It's kind of a weird situation in terms of the men's game. So I think it's a really strange situation that they've got, and it's not helping itself. And it's not helping the game to grow. And I think what worries me is that because they're now getting a bit of success in the men's game, but they're still taking back steps in the men's game, then they have a bit of success and then the next year they take a step backwards. I think what worries me is that they're going to put all of their resources into the men's game and nothing into the women's game. And that worries me.
I mean, for better or for worse, I think we're going to see quicker than we usually would because of the cycle. I mean, they have this time now. There will probably, everybody is having some friendlies for warm-ups. Maybe we'll see through there. It's also like everything else, it's worrying. Actually, I shouldn't speak out of turn. I'm not positive if they've announced their summer series yet. I think they might have. And then probably they haven't. Then in that case, that answers a lot of questions for me. Even Wales has announced what they're doing over the summer, and if they've done it, you are behind.
Well, you just guarantee we're always playing Australia.
Yeah,
it's just Australia. You're going to Australia. Congratulations.
They didn't even have to announce it anymore. It's just Australia.
Yeah, it's just Australia.
Jeez, Australia.
So moving on to some teams that are at least trying. The last game that we have before we jump into the preview is Scotland versus France, which ended up with Scotland 15, France 38, which for me, I would, and I am a pretty big Scotland fan for being a Welsh fan. I would say it was actually a pretty okay performance. We were really lucky to have friend of the pod, Leslie, on. And we do have a little bit to talk about there with the coaching because we've got an announcement. Or I guess it's an announcement. We can talk briefly. We kind of have to about our buddy Fraser Brown. Failing upwards, been announced as the Tigers head coach. Was that what it was?
Ealing.
Yeah.
Ealing. My bad.
Ealing.
Trailfinders.
Who's Tigers? I can't remember now. There's someone called Tigers. They announced that, didn't they?
Tigers are having the Edinburgh.
Oh, that's right. Yes, the Edinburgh guy from the Celtic Challenge has gone to Tigers.
That's Fraser Brown.
No, So Fraser
Delete
Brown.
That.
Fraser Brown was Glasgow, and then he became Scotland.
That's right. Okay, I don't remember the guy's name, but I was talking about the man who drove Edinburgh into the ground and then left.
And then some other random man who we had never heard of, who was an assistant coach at Edinburgh and also was a coach somewhere in Holland.
Right. Now that's what it is.
Coach at Tigers.
Woo-hoo. Which I mean, we're in Six Nations mode, so we can't go back to PWR. But I'm surprised that we saw an announcement for a head coach of Tigers at all. We've been hearing a lot of rumors about that as well. We can add that in for any other business at the end. But speaking of, we had some concerns about Scotland going into France. Looks like some were warranted, some weren't. What did we think of those performances, especially since we, as a nominally group of Welsh fans, are seeing France this week?
Yeah, I'm worried about it. I thought France looked good. They definitely look better this year.
What I was going to ask was, do they look better? Did they look better last week than they did the first week? Because I don't agree that they look better.
I don't think they look better. No, I thought Scotland actually gave them a good game. I think if Emma Rohr had scored that second try, she dropped the ball over the line. Or, well, to be fair to her, it was not a drop. It was one of those chase kicks. Yeah. She could have got it down if the ball had just bounced differently. I think if she'd scored that, it could have swung a bit differently. Yeah, it could have. Obviously, could have, should have, whatever. But I don't think France were. Yeah, I don't know. They weren't as comprehensive. I don't know. Ireland did combat France in the second half, didn't they? In the first round.
Yes.
And to be fair to Ireland, they were battering, and just France were just defending. It was the first half that they looked really good. And I don't know what it was. They do look
Well,
better
that
this year, but they're still looking a little bit shaky at times.
Well, that was actually the direction I was going to go in, which is the only thing that I feel like is still reliable in the same way as like that's the France that we know is the defense. I would argue that honestly, I think for me, the attack looks the most disheveled it has in a while, which is not what I expected, to be honest. It could also have been the lineup. We know that they are missing a few folks. Last week they did not have Ramon Menage back, but I think she's back now.
No, I don't think she's back now, is she? Is she
She's
back
in
now?
camp, but she's not playing this week.
There we go.
Thank God.
There we go.
Thank you.
Yeah, no, we can't do both of them. Oh, it's too much.
I think if you take Pauline out of the French team, I think they struggle.
Falls apart.
I think they will struggle if if she's not in that side, because she pulls all of the strings. She is her and Kira Bavino, I think, at the moment, and Mohan, the miles apart in the world scrum halves.
Absolutely.
And I thought she had a great game.
I want to back up really quick. I mean, honestly, because of the stats don't lie, but both sisters also did very well, but I don't think that they tied the team together. Absolutely. Sorry, Hattie, go on.
So my thing with France, and I've said this for 2 or 3 years, and I stand by it, and they're getting more and more like this, is they stand by every single cliche. So
yes,
the cliche
absolutely.
is a game of two halves. Which French team are going to turn up? It's which French team are going to turn up in each half, because it's not going to be the same one in each half. They have one half that's good and one half that's absolute dog shit, and you don't know.
It could be first and second. It could be second and first. Yeah,
because in the Ireland France game, the first half was it the first
magnifique?
Half?
The first half they were magnifique.
Sorry, that was terrible.
Yeah, and then
they were awesome.
The second game, it was the other way around. So I honestly don't know what is going on with them. It's just bonkers.
Another one.
But then it's really interesting what Sian said about when you take Pauline Bourdon-Sansus off, that France fall apart, because she came off at 64 minutes. France scored 1 try after that, and then they didn't score anything else.
Yeah.
We scored 3 minutes after she came off, and then that was it. But most importantly, Pauline Bourdon-Sansus scored the first goal in 14 years?
11
something
years.
like that.
11 years. I knew there was
Insane.
in there.
And the last drop goal was also France. Wasn't that the Sandrine Agri goal?
Yeah.
Yeah, there we go.
That's such an insane statistic to me. It's
it really is, especially now that you guys have, listeners may not know. I'm finally dipping my toe. I'm doing a little bit of DEI myself. Finally dipping my toe into men's rugby, and I really didn't know. And I feel very foolish, but I simply didn't know that they drop kick so much. I thought that that's a dessert. I thought that you only get that sometimes.
It's a trend.
It's phasey.
Absolutely.
It's definitely phasey.
Absolutely.
I think it was what World Cup was it? Was it 2015? Was it 2015 when there was loads of them and everyone was doing them?
I feel like 2019
was it 2019?
Gareth Anscombe did the only ones in the entire World Cup, because he scored a couple against Australia, and then that was it.
That sounds familiar to me.
All we had anything, and then in 2023, George Ford did the drop goal masterclass.
Yes,
and Telegraph
that.
And then everybody was trying to go for drop goals for the rest of the World Cup, and then people were scoring drop goals in the Prem, and then I think that was around the time that Sarah McKenna did a drop goal in the PWR, and then people in the papers were then is this the first drop goal in the PWR? And they had to literally go through the record.
That's right.
Actually, it's the 4th. But we don't have videos of any of the others.
Right, and it was other iterations of PWR. Anyway, sorry.
Do you think Sinead Harris drop goal?
In the
she did a drop goal. Do you think that's the only drop goal? Yeah.
It is.
I love it.
Oh, it's definitely the only drop goal in Celtic Challenge.
Yeah,
amazing.
Oh, for sure. I do wonder. Actually, you made a good point, and it was just something that I didn't think of. But it is very. I guess we have to call it a trend just because it comes in and out. But yeah, it's very phase. The same way I think of it the same way as the try off a driving maul. And I think about it specifically because it was something that when John Mitchell came in for the Red Roses, he was like, we're getting away from that. And they haven't gotten away from it, but they want to be getting away from it. God knows if you're a Wales fan, you would like to get away from it.
Or like
see.
the Johnny Sexton like loop.
Yeah.
Like that was a really big, like, I just feel like it comes in phases. Like you have like 2 or 3 years where like it's just a thing because you have a player that's really, really good at it. And so all the time, but I don't, like, you have your George Fords who are really, really good at it, but I don't really feel like there are that many other male players who are really known for
Not
it.
not at the moment. No, I don't think so.
I think it's kind of dying out again a little bit.
It is a little bit.
And that's what I was thinking about when thinking about whether it would kind of take the women's game by storm. And my answer, like, it surprises me that it hasn't. I'm gonna make a slightly wild call, but if you know American rugby, it isn't that crazy. I do think we're gonna see them in WER.
Yeah.
I do. It's something that I think if we do it right, especially because so many US national players are playing in WER, it's not biased, but I do think if anybody tries to pull one off at the World Cup, it would be America or possibly Canada
or Spain.
I think it's Spain would be
Spain. Yes,
it's a good call. Spain is one of the Spain is also some of the numbers in the Six Nations count for women's drop goals,
and they're also one of the most recent ones to do it as well.
Yep.
And
I mean, and that actually goes right along with where I was going with my point, which was I think it is it's an artifact of nations that have really strong soccer or football culture.
Yes, good footballers.
England does, I understand, but
they don't cross over like the.
I was just gonna say it's the crossover. Thank you.
The England rugby players, very few of them have played football. Like Katie Daly-McLean is one of the very few, but she will openly say that she wasn't good at it. Like she did it because her friends did it, but she didn't enjoy it. Like rugby was her thing. But I think because in England, and I say this as somebody who very much grew up like in rugby heartland in England, is that you like rugby and football were not common for girls. So like it wouldn't make sense for a girl to be playing football and then to switch, whereas like in the US it's super common for girls to be playing football.
Precisely. Almost all of our rugby players come from soccer.
So it makes sense.
And in fact, if you are listening because you are a Wales fan, you may or may not know, but that is how we got the product of Eleanor Snowsell was coming from football. Incredible at that. And honestly, like I would argue, and I think everybody here would agree, also single-handedly pushed kicking in the Wales women's senior team forward just by herself.
And the last Wales women, or I think the only Wales woman to score a drop goal in an international match.
Yeah, we're trying to find that out, aren't we? There's just no stats. It's a nightmare. I've been trying. It's just a nightmare.
I've even subscribed to women's rugby data. I'm desperate.
I was just gonna say, Max, if you're listening, which I hope you are, because I often tweet it at you. But we would love it if you did know. And in fact, I'm probably going to DM you after this because we would love it if it's one of the ones that we can't get our hands on, and it has to be out there. And like every time you talk to an old timer, like Ali from Scrubbing Queens, I've asked, and it's just like it's kind of just up to like who remembers. So you really do have to find people like Sean who just remember every single thing and be like, Sean, do you remember? And you're like, I have to scroll the database.
93.
Exactly. You're like 93.
We need to find Lisa Burgess. Does she know? She'd know.
Oh, that's a good call.
Oh, I didn't get a chance to speak to her at the Celtic Challenge.
I was just going to say.
Disappeared. I was dying to speak to her.
Sean's close personal friend, Eleanor Snowsell. We're going to hit you up after. We're going to see if you can get us in touch with Burge.
We have one desperate question to ask her. It's the most important question.
It's just one. And she's ready for us to be like, what is the key to Welsh success? We're like, no.
She'll know. I reckon she'll know, though. I reckon she'll know. She'll be like, oh
yeah. Speaking of Welsh success,
I'm just convinced Amanda Bennett must have scored a drop goal. She was a really good footballer. She was a very good footballer. And I don't know. I just feel in my gut that she might have had a drop goal.
I'm gonna remind myself to look. Actually,
I can't remember what she played for one of the top England sides at the time. I can't remember. But yeah, she was a really good footballer. Pardon?
Is it Richmond or Sarries?
Yeah, it was. I can't remember which one.
Everybody went through Richmond at one point.
Richmond were a really good side at the time.
Yes, they were the side
in
Yeah.
UK.
Yeah.
Fun fact.
And of course, Lisa Burgess helped establish Sarries. We have her to blame.
I was just gonna say, Sarries, you're welcome. By the way, Sarries, who benefits so much from the Welsh you took, can't believe you got Flo Williams. It's fine. It's fine. She's back now. So while we're talking Wales, since that is our first match coming up, we'll just go straight into preview because we've been yapping. So we have France. We have an early kickoff. It's early for me. It's probably great for you guys.
I'm not keen on the early kickoffs myself, but
yeah, I was gonna say, well, so we know, thank God they didn't like travel too late or anything, which is yet something else that Wales has done once in a while.
They went last weekend because they were traveling, like they were posted
I think
videos
they travel
training with French bulls.
Oh really?
Because Wales just, I was gonna say WRU just put up a bunch of footage like they flew yesterday.
Oh, I don't know, but they were training with French bulls, so
to get used to it. That's what you do.
And it didn't look like they were in the Vale, so
wait,
that's a fair point. Actually,
I feel very stupid, but I did not know French balls were different than
just the branded ones.
Oh, okay.
So they were blue and they said France on them.
Oh, sure, yeah.
Because it says that they landed touchdown in France 4 hours ago.
Yesterday.
Sorry, I'm just investigating.
Oh, no. That was what I was hoping you would do. Yeah. Either way.
They were using French balls.
Oh. Or because WRU is so cheap, they're the ones that they stole last time they were in France. Listen, if you played collegiate rugby in America, you had several other schools as balls. And they had yours.
So there's a reel of Sean Lynn naming the team. I don't know if you've seen that. It does actually look a bit different. The room looks different.
I think they've been in
great.
France.
Thank God.
That's amazing. That's actually really good. I hope they have been.
Great. Because I will start it off. We got the team sheets. Some disappointment. Not, two of them are nobody's fault, but might as well get the pain out of the way. Alicia isn't back. Alcal isn't back. Not really sure what's Alcal is training, but that's what I don't understand is where.
But then I'm glad she's not being rushed back.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
We know we're going to lose this game. Let's rip the bandage off. We're going to lose.
Oh, and if anybody if somehow KB and Pauline Bourdon-Sansu do a dance or anything, we knew we were going to lose. If they do can together.
I actually love that.
I know, I would love it.
I
was gonna say, anybody from any RFU socials, if you're listening because you have all the money, I would really like a roundtable of KB, Mo Hunt, and Pauline Bourdon-Sansu. I would like them to be drinking. I would like them to be drinking beer. But if they're drinking coffee, okay. And then you just have to let them talk. And I would like them to just fry each other. And if you let me write the questions, that would be really fun. But I think I'm really onto something there. I think it would be more interesting than doing yet something else about Zoe Harrison kicking. I think it would be more fun. But back to the rugby.
Yeah, it's going to be tough tomorrow, isn't it?
I was going to say, joking aside, what do we think about performance? I'm I guess bitterly heartened that it seems like France hasn't necessarily pulled it together to become the France that we know and fear. But that's really the only upside that I see right now.
We're either going to get smashed in the first half or smashed in the second.
Yes.
It's just when.
I'm betting second half, to be honest. We've been very Wales women brand. We've been completely a first half team both matches so far.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of the 6-2 bench.
I was just gonna say, I don't know how you feel looking at the bench. I don't feel great.
I'm not a big fan of them anyway in general, I gotta say. I am a bit we've got Nell can't speak. We've got Nell Mel. I can't even speak anymore.
Nell Metcalf.
That's how much I hate the 6-2 bench. This is what it does to me.
The 6-2 has rendered her.
And Sian, And I don't know, there's not much experience there, is there?
No, and in fact, I'm going to do this just because it's a question that I've been asked by a few people who are into women's rugby even and are so surprised. There was a very valid question just because of various factors. We have KP10 being unleashed for France. That's great, but some people would fairly argue that Kayleigh Powell is not necessarily tested at 10 for Wales, which is true.
Yeah, it is fair.
And also has had niggles over the PWR season. So there is reason to worry. And I say this just because this is what folks have been asking me. There is reason to worry that there might be a time that you take Kayleigh Powell off. If you do, there is nobody in that bench. At first glance, there is nobody to replace her. We do know that Sian Jones has it in the locker. But we also know that she's what now, 20?
Yeah.
There's also
I love Sian Jones, but it's a big ask, isn't it?
Wait, there's also who?
KB. Kira Bevan.
Oh, sure. But
yeah, but again, I mean, this
who
is
do you
like,
want? Who?
This is wild.
Oh, that's true. Actually, no, you know what? No, now that I think of it, it's something I literally didn't think of is if you slot in Sian at replacement 9, you can move KB back there. Yeah.
Didn't she do it for, she did it for Bears, didn't she, in the season?
She did it for Bears.
Made a meme of it.
Yes.
That's right, yes.
Yeah. And
it seems like a long time ago now.
Yeah.
That's a good point. But
yeah, it's a big ask for either player though. And I you know,
right.
Kira Bevan is a world-class player. I have no doubt that she'd do it.
And
but still
but there are two things. First, when you move I would say that KB is not only the playmaker. Well, there are two playmakers. But KB is not only a playmaker, but she also drives the pace of the team in terms of speed of play. You change the function when you move a 9 to 10. Yes, you open her up to do a few things that she's great at. She's great at open field kicking or open play kicking. That's great. That's all fine. And then second, I did want to note, only because we gave KB the credit for doing 10 at Bears, Sian did the same thing at Celtic Challenge. She has slotted in at 10. So she has done it.
And Sian Jones is an underrated kicker as well. She's actually a pretty decent goal kicker, and she's actually a decent from hand kicker as well.
Now what?
She covered 10 when Lakey did her knee.
For Gloucester.
Yes. She covered 10 during the end of that match. What was that?
That was right.
Yeah.
But we're not going to talk about that. But she did. She did technically cover that.
Yeah.
And KB was at 9.
Right. So I was thinking, now that we were suggesting perhaps moving KB, which okay. One thing that worries me, you made a good point, Sian, that she is a good kicker. I definitely agree about open play. She's got a great chip. She's got a great box kick. That's all great. I will say WRU has been great again this week at putting out socials content, and there was a whole reel of kicking, and we did not see Sian practicing kicking.
No, it was Kayleigh.
No, we saw it was Kayleigh Powell, Robin Wilkins, and
yeah.
Which is interesting that Robin Wilkins is again not featured.
Yeah, I've always been a Robin Wilkins defender, even though understandably other people who also know Welsh rugby have questioned it. I understand there are absolute downsides to her game. I think when you are struggling for stability to this level and you don't have somebody like Karen Lake there that stabilizes everybody and keeps everybody in their heads, I don't think Robin Wilkins is the worst choice. I wish that she had been in. I wish that she had been in. She's
got a bit more experience, isn't she?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, that and she plays with a very cool head.
I mean, personally, I love Nell Metcalf. I think she's a really
a lot of promise too.
I think she could potentially be our starting 15 for 2029. I think she's a fullback than she is a wing. She's again a very, very good kicker, but she's a 2029 prospect.
For sure.
I probably would have, although I'm not Robin Wilkins' biggest supporter. I think
that was why I was hedging, is because I know that I have the person in the chat.
Yeah, like the way I kind of look at it is that you have like the Robin Wilkins and Snowy era, and now you've got like the Kaylee Powell.
For a back rower, you have a lot of 10 opinions, and I just want to say that on the air right now. You often have 10 opinions, and this.
I feel like they're two different eras because Robin Wilkins and Snowy really complement each other, and I feel like that's why Robin Wilkins is now not featuring. But Robin Wilkins would have been that perfect person to put in that 23 slot. She could have come in on
absolutely.
Could have come in at 10. She also played the 2014 World Cup at 13, so she could have.
I was just going to say, she can play center. She's fine.
Yes.
So the only person I wouldn't have put her at was on the wing, which would have been fine because there's enough.
There are others. If worst came to absolute worst, you can slot Jazz in there and have, I don't know, somebody else. You could have CK go back to 15. Like, there are so many other options if you need to move around for wing. That's not a problem.
So I just think that would have been the time to put Robin Wilkins in, which is a weird thing to come out of my mouth.
I know. I did not expect that, and now I don't really know where I'm going next. So, Sean, what you were going to say?
Well, no, I think the team selection did surprise me a little bit because of the bench. I'm not a fan of the bench. Some of the select, I was surprised.
I think it's fair if we take a minute to talk about the bench. I think it's fair.
Like, I know I'm focusing on the bench here rather than team, but Natalia John, I was surprised was in there. I thought that was a bit of a surprise. Why
do we think that? I am actually, we didn't get to talk about it offline. Why do we think that happened? Because I don't have a good explanation.
I think Sean Lynn is thinking about the physicality of France, which is fine. But then England are really physical. Like, is it a thing more? We lacked a bit of that physical. I don't know. Is it a physical thing, and they want more forwards?
I think institutionally there is not, and I'm not saying this is right or wrong, but the way that it feels is that institutionally there is not as much faith in Natalia John as I think you should. She's definitely seasoned, but it has seemed in terms of selection in the past and how much she's been involved at the senior level versus how much they're kicking her back to Celtic Challenge. It seems like they're trying to telegraph that, like, you're not performing. And then when we saw Sean Lynn doing the team announcements, he was very pointedly like, Tal, you've been doing great. That's why you're in.
I think because she wasn't picked up by the PWR. Like, she was signed for Saris and they didn't play her.
Right. Yeah. I thought, to be fair, she was carrying the whole Britain team a lot of the time on her own.
Yes.
Like, she was probably one of the only senior player. She was the most senior player, rather, in the team many weeks. If Gwen Crabb wasn't there and, a couple of others weren't there, then they were kind of lacking a bit. Like, Ffion was playing one game and, didn't come back. So I think I felt like she was carrying a lot, actually. And I think it impacted, she was a captain as well. And I think it impacted her performance. And I really like her. I think she's
or not. Do you think that the captaining and that performance bolstered her or took away from her performance?
I think it took away from her performance. I think there was a couple of games when she looked like she was going to cry.
Yes.
And she really cares, and she was obviously feeling a lot of responsibility for the fact that Britton were getting hammered by like 100 points, well, not 100 points, but they were getting so badly hammered. And I felt really bad for her because it's not her fault in that none of that was her captaincy or her,
I was going to say, without projecting onto her, I think she did take a lot of it to heart.
I think she did, definitely.
Which is absolutely captainly, good or bad. That's the thing a captain does.
Exactly.
And I think it hit her hard.
But I am surprised to see her. I think she does have good leadership qualities. I think she is a good senior person to have.
My question here, though, is what are they slotting her in for in this bench? I understand that she can play several things in the forwards, but you have Allow, so you don't need a second row backup.
See, I would have started Allow.
Yeah, right. We all,
because I think her size and her physicality. Again, I would have started Allow against England.
yes.
I don't know. I don't know.
Actually, I would have
doing it because she's so young. I would have
kept her off England to preserve her for France, and I would have used her in France.
And I actually think that for Allow, the England game proved that she was physical enough. Because
and that's why I think it was perfect for her to come in when she did.
Yeah, because she made such a difference when she did. Just to go back to Natalia John just for a second, I think with Britton, I think she was a really good leader as a Britton fan very quickly. I don't necessarily think she's like a natural captain. But I don't know necessarily whether Sean Lynn's brought her in just so she has minutes. But I think what's kind of interesting is I think a lot of her career she's been compared to Gwen Crabb. Like they've obviously been a second row partnership a lot,
which I think is super
weird because they're really
base,
different
but
players.
it's super off base. They're very different players.
They're very, very different players. But actually, when you look at it, like Gwen Crabb's had a lot of like she's back from injury, like she's doing really well.
Yeah.
But Natalia John has been off for like a really long time, on and off with injuries. Like she's struggled a lot.
Injuries and playtime. What I wonder is where she is now to justify her contract.
Yeah, and I think she came in with Brython. She hadn't played for a while. She came in with Brython, immediately was captain. I don't think she was ready for it. Had a really inexperienced team with no leaders. She was the only leader. I don't think she'd ever really been captain before. I don't think she's a leader, but she's not really a natural captain. She didn't have captain experience. She was thrown into it. And then Gwen Crabb, who she's been compared to her entire career, comes in and has stormers of games, gets pulled out for a PWR thing, comes back, has even more stormers of games. And now
it's got to knock your confidence. Yeah.
I don't think that it's great for her confidence. And so I'm glad that she's getting game time. But I don't really get it.
I think you're right. I think that's really astute. And I think that it's really unfair to her for this to be, this is your prove it moment. That's not quite fair.
And I think it's like heading to the point, and we'll probably get into it a bit later because I know what's coming up, but like sometimes people come up under you and they're better. And Alau's come up, and I think Alau's overtaken her in the pecking order. I think Alau's taken it for a couple of people.
I was gonna say I think Alau is just very hard to argue against. There's just so much. There's and I hate that it sounds like that's taking away from Natalia, and it shouldn't. Natalia has also had a long career, and I think despite all, and by the way, yes, there are hardships right now, but not all of them are her own doing. There is also fuckery in WRU. There's also disarray, and then there is also the fact that sometimes timing doesn't work out right, and you fall through. And we were talking about Liv McGovern at Exeter, and the whole reason why she doesn't ever play for the Black Ferns and never did is just because all the timing was shitty and it just didn't work out. And by the time she was ready, her shirt was taken. It could be
awful, but sometimes it happens to players, doesn't it? It just happens. But
if you're but also if you're going to let a player fall through and then okay, but now you're going to throw her in it. I don't know. I don't even know if she'll be put in. If she is, I hope that she's used judiciously. I don't understand why she's there.
I think most of the bench will come on again. I'm pretty convinced.
I think we're gonna have to. That's my thing though, is I think we're gonna have to, which is why I think that 6-2 frustrates you, Sean, is because we know we're gonna dump out the bench. And if so, why this?
Yeah.
And I don't know. We can explain a lot of things away by just hand waving it and being like, oh, well, he just got there. Oh, okay. This team hasn't had enough time together. That's not true. We've debunked that. Most of these players have actually had a lot of time together. They've been playing together for years. Yes, under a coach that sucked. Okay. Still, I hate it when we have to do this, but we do have to compare.
They have to learn the new systems, don't they? I mean, there's
absolutely.
That aspect, I think, is where we do have to give a bit of grace, and they do have to have time. I'm hoping that the fallow week as well and having this extra week is going to help. We want to be seeing that improvement, don't we? Not to go back to the England game, but like we talked about the discipline against Scotland, and the discipline against England was so much better. So that, we want to be, like, I think, what was it? Our 37 minutes was the first penalty that we get.
Which was huge. And that was actually where I was kind of going to end up with it, because, there are so many ways that you can.
We want to be seeing those kind of improvements. So
gradual improvements.
Exactly. And like when you can see those improvements, it is, you're kind of like, oh yeah, the building blocks are kind of there.
Improvement, I think.
That is a dramatic improvement. I agree.
Our biggest problem for a long time was discipline.
Exactly. 35 missed tackles against Scotland, 30 missed tackles against England. Still quite a lot of missed tackles, but it was against England, and we still had less missed tackles.
Exactly.
Yeah. Again, I think that's. I do think Yeah, exactly. I do think that's an improvement. So if we get, and those are the kind of improvements I want to see. Yeah, so it is, but I know it is frustrating. I can't at the moment. I do feel a little bit like, I don't know, the team selections don't always make sense to me.
They don't, and I don't mean to keep doing this and not saying that it's necessarily a one-to-one comparison, but only because when Ireland were really flailing, everybody was just as hard on them as we are being on Wales right now. Ireland had the same thing, honestly. They all had to learn a new system. They had to get a brand new coach. They were coming back from absolute desolation. I didn't see anybody giving them particular grace, and they had to improve dramatically in a short period of time, and they did.
I think the difference was, though, is that, and this is why I get really, really annoyed with the WRU, is that the IRFU, they dumped that coach straight off the Six Nations, and they had WXV to bounce back.
Yep. Which is exactly what we needed, and everybody was clamoring for it for Wales the whole time. This is not a surprise. It was an abject failure by WRU.
Yeah.
And we're seeing it.
But the thing I am quite liking about Sean Lynn, and I will give him props for, is that he does seem to be rewarding players for their good performances. Like,
absolutely,
Jenni Scoble has been an absolute.
Yes.
We all were like, why has Jenni? No offense,
which we need.
No.
I love Jenni Scoble. She's like my new favorite player ever.
Exactly.
Yeah, when she
but you want to see breakthroughs like that.
Scotland, we all went, why the hell is she starting? She has now become, we've got a secret hat for her. She's got a nickname. We're obsessed with her.
We were wrong.
She is our new favorite player.
And it's exciting as fans, even if not as analysts, just as fans. Like, that's exciting. That's what you want. That's what gets people. That's what gets people into the stadium.
Jenni Scones, as we like to call her, because my auto parrot failed and called her Scones.
Jenni Scones, Jenni Scoble. If you are listening, which probably not, but if you are and you see Jenni Scones, it's just because of Sean's autocorrect.
It is, yeah. She has been my breakthrough, most underrated player of the Six Nations for Wales. I think
Absolutely.
she's really doing really well. I think
really couldn't come at a better time too.
And Donna Rose is also playing quite well when she's coming on.
Yeah.
But Jenni Scoble kept England back in the scrum. The scrum
she frustrated them.
We were actually killing them in the scrums. We were actually killing them. They had to bring on bots early.
I was just gonna say Hattie went nuts when she realized that one of their scrum penalties pissed them off so bad they had to bring on bots.
I have since discovered that Matt Carson is technically now injured, but
details.
But that's not.
It was vibes.
It was
Jenni Scones.
It was Jenni Scones winning the penalties so much that he was so upset.
They were pissed.
She had an incredible time against England. She scored a friggin' try. She was
really
getting turnovers. She was moving.
And by the way, it wasn't a usual boring prop try. It was a proper. Well, there are a lot of ways that props can score that are kind of you'd hope. Exactly. That's all I meant, is that it wasn't off somebody else, which I consummate front rower. The only time I only ever scored once in an actual game, but it was right off a maul in the 5 meter line. It's not really, that's not anything. That's nothing.
No, I agree. I think Sean Lynn, I agree with you. I think I like Sean Lynn, and I think I really like I love what he talks about. I just think he talks really well, and I like listening to him talk. I could imagine if I was a player, I'd be quite inspired by him as well. And
they've asked the girls a lot, and they have all unanimously said that they really like the vibe that he's brought. The positivity is working for them. They look so much happier, which is the main piece of importance. I do really completely I want to underscore what you said. I really like, and the reason that we like. I don't mean to speak for everybody, but the reason that I like that it seems like he rewards on performance is because I'm contrasting that to what we, after a time, kind of surmised that a lot of the time Johan was rewarding who was good at the gym, which is a thing, but you have to play well. It can't just be that you're the goodest girl in school. Because it's rugby. If this were something else, if this were the trying hard game, okay, but you have to play.
it was like Karis Cox had an absolute phenomenal game last year in the centre.
I'm a Karis Cox defender. I'm so glad
I am Karis Cox's number 1 defender. She had an absolutely phenomenal game.
She's great. I think
she is. And I also think that's somebody who's really coming out to shine. Yeah, absolutely. There were people who we were almost kind of forced to admit were having, or to say like, oh, so-and-so was having a good game, but it was because it was like, well, that's what we got. That's who we got to see. We didn't get to see other people because of whatever reasons. Now we know there were politics as well, which, oh my God. And surely there are politics now, but they seem like they're less bad. So improvements.
Oh, and also we have to say it's good that Courtney Keat's been starting.
Yeah.
Oh my God, yeah. CK.
I have to shout that out. Yeah.
I think
when she came on against England.
I think it's extremely I think one of the few foolish moves that Linny made so far was just not deploying that sooner.
Yeah, agreed.
I could go on, and like my thing is we've all got like our own players. One of mine is Courtney Keat. Where like I could just go on and on, especially being a Bears fan as well, of just like the various things you can do with this. She's like backs clay. Like you could just be like, well, today I need this, and she's like, yeah, I can do that. You're like, well, today I actually need something completely different. I need like a consummate fullback now. She's like, yeah, I mean, like I can whip that out. And then like today we need a points kicker. She's like, yeah, I mean, I could probably do that.
She is very malleable.
Kind of player. Yeah. And can be what you need.
Like she's just big.
Well, that's what I was gonna say. Is that it is somebody with a lot of agility, but like got the muscle behind it.
I also think she brings a lot of leadership as well. I think she's like,
I think her vibes are very good.
Which ironically we're lacking in the backs, considering that our captain is in the backs.
One of them. He is one of them.
Yeah.
I really do, we don't need to go down that road. I think we've made our feelings there really clear. I think that it's a good idea to have her next to Courtney Keat. Yeah. So moving on. After our Wales match versus France, we will have Ireland versus England. Okay, yes, it is Ireland versus England. Honestly, I'm kind of excited about this. I think this is going to be a match where some questions that we've been having are going to be answered, which I'm really excited about. We, just to briefly go over it, we've seen both team sheets. They both look good. They both look pretty predictable. Nobody looks particularly silly in terms of like what we saw first week with England. It looks like they're taking it seriously, which as Wales fans, we will tell you, seriously, don't underestimate them. Please watch tape. But it's the Red Roses. So
sure they're going to watch the tape.
Oh God, you'd hope. What are we thinking? The 10 knower. Well, I need to know it because we know that this is where one of the battle points will be, is at the 10 knower. What are we thinking?
Oh, I think Dan O'Brien. I don't know why I've become the 10 knower. I think Dan O'Brien, to me, and I've said this again before, Dan O'Brien to me she has the yips. She came back. She does no longer has the yips.
I think she doesn't have the yips anymore.
I think she heard you. I think she like heard you.
I was gonna say that or on their last away game, how like on socials and everything, they really like to, one of the things that all of the teams really like to do is to like be hiding around the corner and somebody just scared the yips out of her.
Yeah. Or more likely is that because the IRFU is like one big conglomerate, is that I think one of the
you mean that they don't have two different codes, they just have players?
Yeah, because it's like all one massive organization where like all of the teams
all in one room together.
Exactly, where they're just like, just bring them all in. They're like, which team? They're like the ones that play rugby.
Yeah,
they're in green.
Yeah, or they might be in blue this week. Who knows? No. But I think because her kicking was actually getting quite a lot of attention in the Irish media and it was actually getting quite bad, I think what potentially happened is that the IRFU probably, because I don't think that the women's team has a kicking coach, I think they got one of the men's coaches to come in and work with her.
Good.
Which is good. And you know what? If that's the resourcing that you have, and I think that's one of the benefits of an organisation like the IRFU, and you know what? It worked because she no longer had the yips and she had the yips 4 months.
Yeah,
Yes.
she did. You're right. No, you're right.
I will say,
Completely agreed.
I've said this before as well. She has one of the highest ceilings of any 10. I think
Mm.
Zoe Harrison is very much, I think, near her ceiling or at it. I think
That's what I was curious. That was specifically what I was curious about, just because it feels to me like two ends, the beginning end and the end.
Dan was like barely scratched it, and this is why I love watching Dana play. And like Dana gets shit from people who don't know her game, like
who don't know ball.
If you've just tuning into an Ireland game, if you've just tuned into a Wolfhounds game and you're just watching Dana and you've never watched her play before, you're like, oh, she's
That's not great.
Like whatever. If you actually watch her regularly, you pick up that like she learns quickly. And this is why her yips were so weird, because that's the longest streak I've ever seen her not learn from something, because she learns.
It's a really good sign, though.
And this is the thing, like her improvement, she's like 21, 22.
Exactly.
She's
That's what I
scarily
meant,
young.
is that you can grow that rugby IQ in a short period of time if you're somebody who soaks stuff up like a sponge.
And this is and she's been professional for like 2 years.
Yeah, for like 2 seconds.
Yeah. She is going to be dangerous.
Yeah, I think
which
she's
is fantastic because Ireland needs it.
Yeah. And the things she unlocks in that back line is terrifying.
Yes. So that is really the reason why unfortunately I'm gonna have to kick it to Hattie again. But the reason that I'm so excited for this match is that I do think of all of the Six Nations teams as they stand right now, the back row I think that has the highest chance of ever scaring England would be Ireland.
Yeah.
Especially the way they're playing right now.
My only concern, and this is where Ireland I think are interesting. My only concern with the Ireland team as a whole and the back row particularly is that it's a team dominated by sevens players. So 7 out of their 15 players.
I was just going to say, didn't you do the count?
If they're starting 15 7 specialists, including both of their flankers, so 2 of their back rowers, which is great because it means that they're fast, they're strong, etc. And obviously Brittany Hogan has been playing 50, like she switches between 15s and 7s a lot. She's captained Ulster in 15s, but she is really a 7 specialist. Erin King moved back to 15s, obviously quite famously for WXV last year, but until now she's been 7 specialist. But with, I think, 7s flankers, they're very different from a standard back rower. And I think Alex Matthews is like the outlier to that. She used to be a 7s player, now she's not. But I think they've got the engine, they've got everything else. But there's certain things, especially around rucks, that I think they can lose that and they can lose the edge. And I think you saw it when they played New Zealand, and I think you saw it when you played Canada. Ireland's rucking was not great. And I think there was a lot of penalties. And I think that's where Ireland might lose some of the edge, because they don't have those specialist back rowers who are used to playing 15s, who are used to rucking properly. Like you've got Aoife Wafer, who you want to
is a machine. You also have Niamh Jones, to be fair, but go on.
You've got Niamh Jones, you've got Ffion, you've got Dorothy Wall, like you've got solid front 5 players. But if you've got Aoife Wafer, you really want like a Sam Monaghan, who he's a second rower, but like she can play you want a Tricky who could go in and like secure your ruck ball so that Aoife Wafer could go in and steal the ball.
I was just going to say, you want management around her so that she can just do Aoife stuff.
So she can be Aoife. Yeah. It's the same as like you have Alex Callender there and you need Bethan Lewis.
But you need you need your Georgia Evans, you need your Bethan Lewis, you need people who will go and take care of it.
To do all the boring shit so that Alex Callender
can do art.
To be Alex Callender. And this is where I do worry about Ireland in general, is that it's rucks and it's also just general positioning. I think we saw it against France. They were really flat and their positioning was just really odd. in defense and in attack. And
I think is really the only hope for Wales also.
Yeah.
Kicking back for this weekend.
Last week it wasn't as bad because obviously Tricky was in, and it did change their dynamic slightly. They're back up again. They don't have her. Like, it does make a big difference to the team to have that many sevens players in. And if you're going to have any team in the world that could disrupt that and that could like completely blow it apart, it's England.
This is who.
Yeah.
And you've got the absolute top tier England team, I think, apart from maybe Talling. I would say that is,
which is really not, it's really not a downgrade.
That's not a downgrade. I would say that is your starting 15.
Yeah. I think that's really interesting. I thought in the Celtic Challenge, the Irish teams, their rucking was honestly out of this world. Like, the only matches that I think it was when Gwalia were playing Wolfhounds and we could have beat them, but honestly, I think it was the rucking that was just pushed it. Like, I don't know what it was. I don't know whether it was very, very close to the line.
It was also bolstered by having a bunch of internationals around, and we've been seeing discussions.
Absolutely.
We've been seeing discussions out of WRU. We don't have to talk about the plan that they just put out that isn't a real plan, but it also addressed the same thing that we've seen. It, you could say that they cribbed it from Ireland, even that it was just like we realized that having more seniors around, not just for the sake of winning, but for the sake of development, which is true. And I think is one of the things that WRU really failed at. And I think Scotland has also noticed the same things, which is just, there is more than putting them in an environment that is professional. It's having professionals around them to guide them. And we heard from, I hate to go back to Wales again, but we did hear from some of the girls who are coming up through the Celtic Challenge that, like, having Karen Lake there was a game changer. Probably having Talia John there was a game changer. Alex Callender. People who are going to guide you in your career more than just like, here's how to play your position good. Didn't mean to derail us. Our last, unless we have anything else. No. Our last one coming up is going to be Scotland versus Italy. We've spoken a bit about our concerns about Italy. We spent a lot of time last week on Scotland, so I feel like we have a good picture of both of those together in terms of how they play against each other.
Another 6-2 bench.
Exactly. Another 6-2 bench. I'm very curious what you think about this, Hattie.
I mean,
I hate 6-2 benches.
Yeah,
I think we were talking about it in our chat, weren't we? And it was just basically, well, no offense to Italy, but you're probably gonna try it against Italy.
Yes,
I don't kind of mind. Like, I can see why
sense.
Scotland are going to do it. Yeah, it's basically.
I mean, the thing that I don't fully understand about Scotland going for a 6-2 bench is that their backs are absolutely phenomenal, right?
I'd say other than England, it surpasses France. I would say is the second best backline.
I 100% agree with that.
Yes,
like
no question.
Like 11
phenomenal
to 15.
Is banger after banger.
Oh, if I could, I would love to steal the 11 to 15.
They're all ones. They're all ones that have been touted as major stars in PWR, which is very hard for anybody but the English to do.
Like they are absolutely bonkers good. But why? But then their forwards are not. Let's be honest. I love them dearly. Their forwards lacking now.
Not cohesive yet.
Yeah,
they're not. Individually,
which is
from our good friend Fraser Brown.
If you look at their scrum individually, though, they're all really good. So there's something
you would think
there's something not right there, isn't there?
But like, why, if your forwards aren't good, why have more forward on bench?
Well, so and interestingly enough, we did notice that, and I'm sure that there is like nothing to this, but it's interesting that they did actually exactly what Wales did. It is a 6-2 split, but one of the two you can't do that much with because you're banking on it being probably a 9, maybe a 10. Katie Matt, we know, can play 9, no question there. Honestly, we were talking again in this chat that it's kind of baffling for Brebner Holden to be starting ahead of Katie Matt for this one. Kind of weird. Their ruck speed really is weakened for it. I guess when you're playing Italy, it's the one that you worry about the least. But when you're playing Italy, it's also the one, very sorry to Italy, but it's the one that you're hoping to win, is that it's your win to keep you out of wooden spoon.
Yeah.
Scotland isn't in contention.
Points difference.
Yeah, that too. I think
And
Scotland will
you would
win.
think that for sure, but I would think that they would have been targeting a higher points difference. It's surprising to me.
But the other thing I don't get is like they've got 2 back rowers on the bench.
Yes.
Right.
And who are they?
Their back row is stacked.
That's what I was going to say, is who are they planning on taking out? Do they expect to want to take?
Like Rachel McLaughlin has had a lot of injury issues. So like maybe she's the one you take off, you put Alex Stewart on. That makes sense to me.
Sure.
But like Rachel Malcolm is an 80 minutes player. Evie Gallagher is an 80 minutes player when she doesn't get a red card. Like who?
I don't think we're ones to talk.
Are you?
But and specifically, if you are targeting more than just like a win, if you want a statement win, like you never take off Evie Gallagher. You definitely never take off Rachel Malcolm. There are no questions here. I would love to have
second rows.
Right.
I think they should run out of second rows.
Which unfortunately, I was going to say, which unfortunately they are just out of.
Yeah.
Right now, the very best ones. I don't remember if Lou Mack is healthy again. I hope so. I hope is she on the bench, Hattie? No. I don't have the bench pulled up.
No, it's Adele Ferry, which is the
it's very weird for her to be selected ahead of Lou Mack, but okay.
Yeah, she was the one who got her first cap last week.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's what I thought. It was the one where she got capped the same as Holly Cunningham. Holly, we miss you. Bear country.
I don't know. I just think
I don't
Scotland. Scotland.
Well, and so sorry, Leslie talked about exactly this. Yeah.
Just to go back to, they've obviously only got 2 backs on the bench, and they've got a banging 11 to 15. Does that mean that yes, they've got a banging 11 to 15, but does that mean they have no depth?
I mean, yes, at some positions. While I am a relative Katie Mattinson defender, I do agree that there are better 9s just across the board. Her game has suffered, and through no fault of her own, but the combination of her team folding, going to a team that had Mo Hunt, and then Scotland, which has historically not had amazing 9s anyway, but it's simply not a factory for it. Everybody has their strengths. Again, we just talked about that, like they are a back row or they're a backline factory. And then who is, I really should have had the bench up. I have another team up. Who is the other back on the bench?
Lucia Scott.
Oh, she plays wing, doesn't she?
I think so.
Yeah. So
yeah, I think so.
So you have completely.
I don't understand it.
That's so baffling to me. So they are planning on for sure Nelly doesn't come off, which fine. But
if she does come off, does that mean Lisa Thompson goes to 10? But then who goes
right?
Does Ronan Lloyd go to the center?
Probably.
She'd hate it, but she could.
What about
she'd hate it?
She could go to because she could go fullback. They could put Rolly in.
No, you don't.
Oh, this is nuts.
Right, and that's my thing.
Like
is that
only with Scottish rugby players?
But it only suggests a lack of depth. I genuinely don't know if Rolly can play 10. I don't think we've ever seen her play it. Not even at club.
I don't think
I've seen her on the wing. I've seen her on the wing at Trailfinders. Or I've seen her on the wing at Loughborough. I don't think she has a Trailfinders, but that's really baffling. And how did that happen? When you've got all these bangers, your starters are all bangers, and then absolutely nothing.
Well, Mara Smith, she's obviously out injured.
She's definitely out. But she's a set. Oh, that's actually, she's also a place kicker. She's a center.
She's like they're 10.
She's a lot of strength. Yeah. She's a 10-12. And she can play make, which is really fun. But I'm thinking specifically about Franny McGee and I don't.
Evie Wills is out injured as well. She's got a niggle. So that's a less of a centre option.
And I don't remember where
Briar?
McDonald's. Oh yeah, you could go back to Briar McNamara, but
She's not
She's
in the
not in
team.
the squad.
no.
Which I think was mad, but there we go.
Yeah, everybody, all the Scotland followers, fans and people who follow the team closely, including our friend Leslie, were all kind of baffled.
I mean, anybody who watched the Celtic Challenge and had eyes.
Right. That was what we were basing it off of.
Yeah.
I'm not sure. Speaking of our friend Leslie, she just I haven't gotten to finish it, but she recently put out an article about on her Substack about the coaching at Scotland. There may be something for us there to dive into and to take a look at and have Leslie back if she'll have us. Because it's starting to bring decision making into question. And that was something that Brian Eason has really been lauded for. So ripe for looking at it.
Yeah, it does feel like they're in a rut.
Yeah,
and we talked about that a lot. Yeah, we talked about that a lot last time. And I feel like, the last time that we recorded it was right before the game. We've seen the game now, and it didn't do much to negate what we thought.
Yeah,
I just think if you look at, sorry to go back to the stats, of how many tackles we missed against Scotland compared to England, and you're like, Scotland have got really good backs, and they've got a really good back line, but if you look at, they just don't have that accuracy that England do. And you could, Scotland should have probably put a lot more points on us, really. There's something there that I don't like. Okay, yeah, Wales did battle. To be fair to Wales, we did battle back and everything, but I think that Scotland should have beaten us by more. And that, I think, is a coaching thing.
Their forwards as well, like their back line, like their back row, sorry, their normal second row, like obviously they've got injuries at the moment. Lana Skeldon, etc. Like these are out and out like starters, or very much like Lana Skeldon. Wasn't it like last year or 2 years ago? Was like top try scorer or near enough top try scorer in the PWR. Yes. Like these are big names in the PWR, and they're just not doing anything. So actually, it's probably a good thing that Fraser Brown is leaving to go to Trailfinders, men and women.
Yep.
Which probably means he's going to do 90% men and 10% women,
which would be great. Which brings us to so that is our upcoming weekend. We will be reviewing and previewing as well for next week, so be sure to come back for those. And that brings us to everybody's favorite segment, any other business. So first off, we have first, just because we're going to take our leave for being at first a Welsh, now all women's rugby, but first we are all Wales fans. Shout out Ffion Lewis, the announcement that she made about her contract being dropped, no longer playing for Wales, stepping away. My opinion, mature way to do it. If you have to, we're wishing the best. Kind of reserving any other thoughts until we find out more about what's going on with contracts, which it sounds like we're going to find out about June. Opening the floor to anybody else's comments, but didn't want to make any value judgments ourselves. Just it sucks. We saw it.
I'm not a fan of this.
No, not a fan of the decision. Understandable if it has to be. We were talking about sometimes the timing just happens that somebody is coming up, and for a podcast that has talked a lot about the need for depth and the need for new blood, I don't know if this was the right decision. It's not our call to make, but it sucks, and it definitely shouldn't happen this way.
Yeah, I
don't
think
know what anybody else thinks.
I think it highlights where there's an issue with having central contracts, which I know something Hugh's talked about, and I felt it was an issue when Sean named the team, was that it felt like he had to pick all of the centrally contracted players, even though some of them hadn't played, some of them had been playing extremely poorly. And it feels like it could have come. It feels like it could have come from above in that sort of thing of just like, we're paying for it, like when you're paying for a streaming service and you're like, I have to go look to see what it has.
And love that analogy.
Well, you do. You have to go look in the cupboard, and
we had like centres and things like that in the Celtic Challenge who were playing way better, and they've not been selected. And I think part of that is the fact that over the last couple of years where we've had contracts, the only people that left, like that didn't have their contracts renewed, really were people that retired. So it has kind of felt like the contracts weren't really looked at on a performance basis. And I feel like they're performance contracts,
which we are hoping is worth a closer look. And if this is part of that system starting, it really sucks that it had to happen to a player that was hopefully coming back. Luckily, and in fact, that kind of walks me right into any other business. I know we also have a really quick one, Dave Ward to Amptill men's. Okay. We don't really have a comment on that. There was some drama.
Weird rugby news this week. I can't really.
It's weird rugby news. In case anybody didn't see, it was named. It had been rumored that he was definitely going to go to men's champ. Did okay. But I was just talking about there are opportunities more than ever for people to play. I have gone so far as to tweet this directly at Ffion Lewis. Ffion, if you're listening, I did tweet this at you. But moving right into our last any other business, which is what I always use my privilege to do, which is Women's Elite Rugby, WER, over in America. First of all, just in case there are any fringe players, people who don't make their national teams, or just players in general who may be thinking about it, I understand what you've been reading in the news about our country. Ignore all that right now. WER's mid-season, I guess not really mid-season, it's like a third of the way in season.
Really, isn't it? Yeah,
yeah. Yes, but what they're calling, they are having a second declaration period. It started on April 4th. It's going through April 15th. You have another window if you are thinking about it to declare declare that you are open to be selected for WER teams. You can go on their website, which is eliterugby.us, I believe, but you have the internet. They are open for selection again. We on this pod have been really enjoying the competitions. We mentioned it earlier in our discussion. Some really cool stuff is happening, and it is true that the wider rugby world hasn't gotten to see a lot of American and Canadian rugby, and this is the first showcase that everybody is getting to see for live and free again on the DAZN app. DAZN. It's all free.
DAZN. And you say it like DAZN.
DAZN.
Worst name.
It is the worst name, but it's not our choice. And apparently, the boxing and soccer people like it. So okay. It is there. It is live. It is free. This week we have 2 matches. We have one. My phone. Here we go. Yes, this weekend on Saturday, we have Denver Onyx versus the Chicago Tempest. That is going to be played. Oh my God. This doesn't matter. It's not a conversation point, but Denver Onyx has gotten to have all of their matches at home. That's not fair. And it's because all the matches. It's because of Infinity Park. Go on, Hattie.
Yeah, right. So first of all, Infinity Park, my favorite fun fact, is the only purpose-built rugby stadium in the USA.
Oh, yes.
Correct.
But is that the one that looks like a strip munach? There's one that looks like a strip munach, and I was like, oh,
yes,
like my
it is a strip munach. But tell us the shop names, Hattie.
So my favorite thing about watching games there is that I get to look at the background and and you start seeing things and you're like, sensational. So the first one is that the shop, like the staff
team shop,
is called the Shopping Mall, like
MAUL.
That's the best pun name I've ever heard.
Well, wait, but there's another.
The restaurant is called the Grubber Grill.
Oh yeah, I love it. I think if you own like a shop or a restaurant, it has to have a pun name.
It has to have a pun name if it's a sports themed. I mean, America, we started the sports bra. Like we love this shit. We're corny. We're corny, but we love rugby.
The sports bra. I can't remember where it is. Is it in Minnesota or Chicago?
Sports Bra, I think, is in Minneapolis. Yeah.
Yeah. So
I've been to
they
Minneapolis as
actually-
well. Can't believe I
yeah,
been.
they're having so people who don't know about
They
it, I don't
do
know why
have
I
watch
know
parties,
about
yes.
it, considering I'm British, but they are like the US's oldest women's sports bar. I almost call it sports bar. But they had, I think it was this week, they had like a get to know rugby, and it was like you could go and like they teach you the rules or like teach you the laws.
It is, and even better that they have a team there because they have TC.
Yeah, and like
it was really
players
good
there from the team, and you can like a meet and greet. So
it's a lot of fun. I'm really, I know that most listeners probably aren't in the US. If you're ever traveling, definitely please look it up. But yes, sorry, going back, what we have this week, we have Denver Onyx versus Chicago Tempest on Saturday. That's at 1 p.m. Mountain Time, which would mean that it is,
I think it's like
3 o'clock. It's 3 o'clock my time, so 8 o'clock UK.
Do you want me to double?
Yeah, do that. And then while you do that, I'm going to say on Sunday, April 13th, we have the New York Exiles versus the Bay Breakers. And that looks like it is at New York Stadium. So that is at 2 p.m. Eastern, which is American time, which means 7 p.m. in the UK. And that one I'm sure on.
Yeah, so that's Saturday at 8 our time.
There we go. 8 on Saturday, 7 on Sunday. You have nothing else going on except men's rugby. And I don't know about that. So that's not my problem. Check it out.
Doing comms now, and it's
Oh yeah, that is what we're gonna wrap up. Rocky Clark, big shout out. There's no way that you just sat through almost 2 hours of this, but if for some reason somebody clips it up, it's been fantastic. We love it. Rocky Clark is on a mission to get a selfie with every single WER team, so she's just gallivanting across and doing comms, which is awesome.
Love it.
Yeah, we really enjoyed your comms at Chicago. Really interested. I really hope that they just get you back at everyone that you go to. Definitely follow Rocky on Insta. She is, I think, drinking her way across America, and that is so blessed.
Yeah, I love her so much.
I do want more people to watch the WER. It's so good.
We really watch because we want to chat.
It's just the games are worth it though. They're really fun, and yeah, it's just something a bit different.
The good thing is, if you get annoyed with negative rugby comms,
yes,
and people complaining about rugby,
there is absolutely no. And that's why it surprised me so much. Is nobody complains.
There's no complaining, unless it's me and Julia complaining.
It's
about
just us though, and they quote unquote don't want me to be on comms, so I have to do it.
That was specifically at one game.
Yeah.
In particular, that we made it very loud and clear that we didn't like the commentary.
Right, but we were right, and it was a really bad team.
Right.
So they don't do that again, and I don't think they will. I don't think that man. I don't think that man has ever seen rugby, so I think we're fine. For people who didn't know, and we'll wrap it up. They had a comms guy that I think somebody had an emergency, and last minute they just went like, "Have you ever called a sports game?" And he was like, "Yeah." They didn't know that he had only called hockey because he was definitely a hockey caller. And I hope that he learned the position names because he didn't know all of them.
No, he at one point went something like, "Oh, she's kicked the ball out. Oh, it's gone so far.
Oh my God, she hated it that he didn't know the phrase on the full."
And then, it's still going.
It's gone all the way out without bouncing.
Yeah, it's gone all the way out, and then he's going, "Oh," and then walking it back. And then he said something, and I was like, "It's just gone out on the full."
It's that what you didn't like is that he described what out on the full means, but he did it a long way.
He did it a long-winded way without just saying out on the full.
He did it the way that Wikipedia would explain on the full.
It was just awful. And then the absolute best part of the entire game
was Grade A podcast, by the way.
I'm so sorry. We'll end on a high note.
Yeah.
Right at the end, he was talking to the other guy. And if anybody's ever watched hockey, you will know at the end of a hockey game, the commentators are like, "Oh, we had such a good time calling this game. Yeah, it was great. Oh, I can't wait to do this again."
It's very North American.
Yeah, it's whatever. So the guy starts doing that, and he's like, "Yeah, I had such a good time with you. I can't wait to do this again." And the guy that he was with, who clearly had played rugby before but wasn't an experienced commentator, was like,
"Exactly.
Okay.
Because he didn't know how to respond. Because even if if I were I haven't ever done professional comms, but if I were in comms and I got to be the color commentator or whatever, and the play-by-play was just telling me all of that, I'd just be like, yeah, all right.
I want to go home now.
Do you want to talk about that off air? I don't.
The guy again. It was so funny.
But that's what I'm
just let me go home.
Yeah, but this is how we'll end on a high note. Nick Heath, I want you next time to consider turning to Sian Lillicrap and just being like, didn't you have fun? Yep.
Or Nick Heath, can you just do WER?
Right. I know. You've done everything else. How hard can it be?
Nick Heath, here's a selling point. It's really gay.
It's so gay, bro. Oh my God. And IGR is here. Oh, we could get you in with IGR. Yeah. Think about it. And I know that you definitely just sat through this whole podcast just to hear that. You would really, yeah. And you really would, well, you'd really love the crowd, and you'd really love, here's one thing. So they definitely have, I watch a ton of PWR, of course. They definitely have signs in the stands, but it is a very different, unique American thing that the signs are lewd. They're, yeah, it's a lot of puns. It's a lot of and okay, maybe this will offend some UK folks because they really like the family atmosphere. It's still a family atmosphere at WER, but some of the signs are about how they find some of them extremely hot.
Yeah.
What can you do?
Which is also our group chat, unfortunately.
Which is also our group chat, and also probably your group chat, listener.
There's some eye candy in that league.
So with that, there's a lot of eye candy for this weekend. We will be back to review and preview and review. Yep, you got it. We're gonna nail it. Gonna nail it next time for sure. Yeah, and if you found this too shrill and DEI, we might even have a man next week. Hopefully not, but we might have to.
We could go woke.
So with that, we will. Yeah, with that. This has been Woke Women's Rugby Treehouse. Thank you so much for joining us. Check in with us next time. And until then, enjoy your rugby.
Bye.
Bye.